welcome to Just Talk Funerals with me, Jason Threadgold.
And me, Nichola Threadgold.
Just Talk Funerals is all about the funeral industry, the people that work alongside us, and an insight into what we do.
We will have some special guests along the way, sharing their experiences and how their professions overlap with what we do.
So get yourselves comfy, grab yourselves a cuppa, and let's get into today's episode of
Just Talk Funerals. Hello and welcome to our next episode of Just Talk Funerals. And again with me today, I've got my co-host Suzanne. Welcome, Suzanne. Thank you for joining me today. And we've got another guest for you. Now, we're going to today be talking about hospices and hospice care and the incredible work that these people do within hospices, because I'm sure most of us have been touched by having a relative either visiting a hospice on a daily basis or even staying there. So I think this is going to be a really interesting and important topic to talk about. And, you know, to talk about what is hospice, what it really is and what it isn't, because I think there's a lot of people assume things when it comes to hospices. And, you know, for us to talk about the incredible work that people do, certainly within our local hospice, because we do know and work really well and closely with them. Now, hospices can be very misunderstood and can be daunting experiences for people, you know, who don't understand what a hospice is. But they are rooted in compassion, as we know, and the dignity and expert care that comes with a hospice is just incredible. So today with us, we've got Helen. Hi, Helen.
Hello.
Hi. And Helen is Director of Care and Governance at our local hospice, which is Lindsey Lodge Hospice here in Scunthorpe. So, Helen, do you want to tell us a little bit about your role, first of all?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My role is overseeing the clinical services that are delivered. So it's making sure that we've got the quality kit there, that we've aligned to some of the regulations that we have with the CQC, which is the Care Commissioning body. And it's making sure that patients are cared for in the right way, and also the families, because I think that's really important.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. So what drew you personally to sort of hospice and palliative care?
I think I've been nursing for 30 years, and throughout my career I've always had that passion for making sure, particularly end of life, is the best it can be for the individual and the family, but also it's important that we look at that leading up to so those final years of life. So those people that have got life-limiting illnesses, that we're making sure that they're living well right the way to the end, and then making sure that it's very comfortable as can be, and we've got family around them.
Okay, so when people hear the word hospice, what do they often assume and what's the reality?
So they often think about doom, gloom, death, dying. And while death and dying is part of that, we also try and make it quite a joyful place. And it's all about patients' goals. What are the values of the patients and the families, and what do they want to achieve? So that might be that the time that they spent with us, they want to take the grandkids to the park. We will try and enable that in whatever way we can, using the multidisciplinary team that we've got within the hospice to support the patient to meet that wish as close as they can. So it's not just death and dying, it is making sure we're looking at the symptoms, managing symptoms and enabling patients to live well as long as they can.
Yeah, lovely. I think as well, just touching on that, it's not just around having those that are staying with you, is it? You do hospice in the community, don't you?
Yeah, so we do. So our services don't deliver community services as such, but we do work very closely with community services from the NHS, and we sort of work as a multidisciplinary team to look at patients that are in the community and how we can support them. So part of our consultants and part of the larger team that are provided by the NHS, we do work very closely with them. So yeah.
And how would you explain hospice care to someone encountering it for the first time?
So I think it would be about, this is about you. This is about us working with you as an individual to find out what's important to you and your family, and we look at ways that we can support you and enable you to achieve that. So that might be pain, but that might be also something about mobility or breathlessness. So there's quite an array of things, but it's about them. They're central, person-centred care and holistic, and we're looking at them in the totality.
Yeah.
And something that is obviously at the forefront of people's minds, is hospice care only about end-of-life care?
No, like I touched on, I think it's a big myth out there that it is just about the end, but it's not. It's about making sure that people live well for as long as they can, and we help with making sure that the patient and the family can manage some of those symptoms and support them to do that and live as long as they can independently.
Yeah. That was something I didn't realise until I worked here. In fairness, I didn't really know much about Lindsey Lodge Hospice other than I passed it on the way to work. And it always felt like it was only about end-of-life care. So it was really interesting to find out that, it is supporting other people as well, and not necessarily end-of-life care, which I think will be something that maybe surprises quite a lot of people.
And a big myth out there, and people are scared to walk through those doors. But actually, if they walk through those doors, they see something very different. They see a very supportive atmosphere, and one that we try to keep jolly and welcoming.
Yeah, it is a very welcoming, open space when you come through the doors. And what types of patients and conditions do you support?
So a real wide variety. Again, there's a little bit of a myth that it's cancer only, but we look at long-term conditions as well. So your heart failures, your multi-neurone disease, neurological conditions. There's a wide range of conditions. But what it is it's about a life-limiting condition. So we've got to a point that there is no more treatment that's going to make it curative. So anything that sort of steps in is no longer curative is we would welcome them.
Yeah. So you could know people for years then, I suppose, as opposed to...
Yeah, I suppose it's that latter end of life, because there is no cure to what condition they've got, so we're helping them to manage those symptoms to live well. But we could have them a few years.
It's very personal then at times as well, I guess, isn't it? And what point might someone be referred to the hospice for care?
It is very much about their treatment journey. So we get people at different stages. Like I say, it's that life-limiting illness. So they've gone through all the proactive stuff, the stuff that can potentially be looked at to cure whatever condition they have. But if they're at a point where there is no more and we've got symptoms, that's where the hospice can step in, and we can work with a palliative care team in the community and acute to try and support them to look at those specialist palliative services. Some of these are managed in community by your GP practices, and they do a real good job of that. But when it becomes to a point where they've sort of come to the end of the road, they don't really know what options, that's when we, as a hospice or a palliative care team, might step in and work together as an MDT to try and help them to look at different ways to manage the symptoms.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So looking at the clinical side, Helen, we talk about clinical care.
Yeah.
So for the viewers, can you describe to us what that is in a hospice setting?
Yeah, so whilst people might think it's a lot of physical health, what you've got to remember is we're looking at the patient holistically. So some of the things that might come in is pain control to help them manage pain that's difficult for them to control. We might have somebody that is breathless from their condition, so we might help them. And some of these can be with pharmacological, so medications, but some of them also could be non-pharmacological. So, for example, for breathing, we might look at breathing techniques that they can use. So we go a sort of array of some of those symptoms right the way through to psychological support. And again, this is not just for the patient, this is for the family as well, or the main carer, to make sure that we're supporting them psychologically and how they're coping with it, and looking at different coping mechanisms. So it's a real sort of looking at the
broad, isn't it? Yeah,
looking at the patient in total, not just at the symptom that they're coming in with, but everything else that's going on.
Yeah, okay. So how do you manage pain and symptoms so effectively? How does that work?
I think that is getting to know the patient. I think it's getting to know what works for the patient, and I think it's using not just medications, but also sort of some of those other techniques that we might use. We've got real specialist consultants and a team that are used to this, the medications that we use and the different combinations, and are having them in the inpatient unit, and enables us to monitor them and tweak medications as we go. So it really is that specialist knowledge that we've got that helps to really look at what the pain is, what's causing it, and then tweak medication or other non-pharmaceutical methods that we might use. Some of that might be psychological support, and looking is there something else that's helping them. So I suppose we're looking at not just physical pain, but total pain. What else is causing that pain?
Yeah. So like if they're worried about what's going to happen for the family, not necessarily for themselves, but for the family. So you can talk to them about that and help them understand how you'll help the family. So it's really interesting.
And that's done with a team. We've got counsellors as well within that team.
Yeah. Okay, so how are you ensuring around the dignity, the comfort and the choice, and then making sure that remains central to care?
So it's making it, the staff make sure the patient's wishes are always central to everything we do. And as nurses, we'll look at care plans that surround what that looks like. But the main thing, the whole of the team, so that'd be therapists, nurses and the doctors would be doing, was be making sure we are listening to the patient, identifying those wishes, and make sure that they are communicated. So we've got a multidisciplinary team meeting, we've got regular handovers, so those messages are constantly communicated, so we're always identified that patient goal and heading towards that, making sure we maintain that dignity on the way.
Okay. And I mean, this is a question that, as you've been talking, and I'm thinking, okay, so this is all great, but why does hospice clinical care differ so much from hospital-based care? Why is it so different?
The time that's allowed, the staffing levels. I think in an acute setting where they're very rightly so geared up for that acute medical attention, so things that need to be dealt with, it's not always the right place when you get to that latter end, because a lot of this is about time with patients, that quality time. So we're listening, we're talking, and it's, no disrespect to any of the nurses at the hospital, they haven't always got the time to do that. So in a hospice, what we try and do is make sure we've got those staffing levels at a level where we can enable time, and we use a wider variety of team members to support that.
It can be difficult, I guess, getting people to tell you, to talk to you, and like you say, a hospital setting's more reactive. I think so. It's getting the people to have confidence in you to be able to say, actually, this is what I'm scared of. Or
it's building that rapport, those relationships.
Trust as well.
Trust. We're also a charity, so a third of that is from the NHS, 2/3 is from our great community out there. That enables us to put some of those additional resources in, so we can give that quality of care, which maybe the hospital haven't got those kind of resources. So that is the ethos of the hospice, to make sure we've got that quality care and values our patients and relatives.
And how does the hospice care support families alongside patients?
It's looking at them as a whole unit, and we listen to what the relatives are saying and take some of that into consideration as well. And we'd sweep them up as well within the counselling service, or the nurses would, looking at them in totality, making sure that we're supporting them psychologically as well with what's going on, because there'll be a lot going on.
Well, they kind of, I guess initially when you hear that, you begin to grieve.
Yeah.
And then as time goes on, you maybe have to come out of that. As the person's still there, you can't be grieving that person. So to have someone to talk to, because they kind of doubly go through it, don't they, really? There's that initial, oh, this is happening. And then maybe you help them a little bit, and there might be a month or a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, and they're kind of, oh, well, they're still here, and we maybe got that trip to the park, but then it happens again. It must come in waves at times.
It's
for
the
families.
Loss of hope, the hope for the future.
Yeah.
Hope for those plans that they had.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing.
Yeah, that's a lovely way of putting it, actually. That was,
It
I
is.
couldn't get to
Gosh.
that. Yeah. And what emotional or practical support is available for loved ones? We've sort of talked about that practically. I guess it's sort of counselling, talking. Do you sort of discuss what might happen at the end and how it might be and you know?
Yeah, so the staff will prepare patients and constantly have some of those conversations. They try to capture patients' and families' wishes, you know, when it comes to the end, is there some favourite music you want playing? Or so when they're unable to communicate, we've got some of those wishes down, and so we can continue caring for them in the way that they want us to. So there is a lot goes into having those conversations, so we can make sure it's continued, that person-centred care throughout.
Yeah, and the family must be scared at that point of, you know, what's going to happen and how it's going to be and things like that. And I guess that all comes within the talking to the family beforehand about what may happen and preparing them.
And that's not once, that's got to be constantly, you know, those conversations had, so people remember, and there's nothing unexpected. There's a lot about reassurance, because what some people will experience is normal, but they won't have gone through that before, and that patient won't be uncomfortable, but it'll just be different, and so that'll be difficult. So it's making them understand. So there's lots of leaflets that we have as well to sort of remind them and for them to look back at when we've but constantly being there.
Yeah, and time, like you say, time to spend with people, to go through the patient and, like you say, the family as well. It must be really difficult. And do families often say afterwards, I wish we'd come sooner?
Sometimes, sometimes, or they might have experienced a death elsewhere and said, you know, wish we'd known about this. Yeah.
I think that's probably the experiences that we've heard from dealing with our families, isn't it? That, you know, we didn't realise how remarkable the hospices service would be in terms of the love and care that, you know, is given not just to the person that's poorly, but to the family as well, isn't it? It's just such a wraparound lot of love, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I mean, it surprised me, as I said, till I started here, and obviously Jason and Nichola have always been very involved with the hospice. I just thought it's where people went to die, which is a really harsh word. But yeah, and having found out about the other services, I mean, I said to you, I wish I'd known about Lindsey Lodge when my dad was poorly, for the support before he passed away. So yeah, it really is interesting to hear, and you know, to hear you sort of say how much it matters, and family matters as well. So
definitely matters. Okay, so in terms of end of life care and difficult conversations, how do your team approach conversations with those families about dying?
It's about respect, it's about compassion, and it's got to be very values led. So it's got to be taken at the family's pace as well. I think it's really important. Some people, different people react in different ways. So the team's skilled in being able to identify where they are and do it at a different pace depending on them. We'll get some people that don't want to know, or just want to know just the little bits. And so we have to go with that. And that can be difficult for the family to sort of, for the staff, to judge that. But that's what they're skilled in, and that's what we do a lot of training in, to try and make sure that they're skilled to be able to do that, but it is making sure it's very compassionate and at the pace that the family want.
Yeah, that must be hard for your team as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know, I think a bit like us with our families, you make a bit of a connection with them.
Yeah.
And then, emotionally, it's really hard, isn't it? Yeah. Some conversations we have with families, it's hard, isn't it? But then sometimes it's around just listening, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And how do you support patients to have control and choice at the end of life? How does that work?
Yeah, so we've talked about, so there is a couple of booklets or leaflets that we use that encourage them to talk to family about what some of their wishes might be or what they might like.
Yeah.
So we encourage them to complete those so that we've got a record to be able to use and the staff can use to try and make sure we facilitate the wishes.
Yeah.
And it's that constant communication and that constant conversation, because the more you talk to people, the more that comes out, and the more you understand what the dislikes and the likes are, to be able to make sure we facilitate that. It's good communication, it's good documentation.
Yeah. So without prying too much, because obviously it's very delicate, but what sort of wishes maybe do people have?
Also, we have some very different ones.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Laying on a certain side, or wearing a certain pair of pajamas, or having a certain music playing.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different things. Then we've brought dogs into the thing. We've had horses stand at the window. There's lots of things that we try not to say no to things. We've had beach days and we've brought sand into the garden at the back, so that because that's where the person wanted to be. We have taken someone in an ambulance to the seaside because that's what they wanted to see and feel. So we really do try and make it right for the patients and the families and see what they want. We've had weddings, we've had parties. We're trying to personalise it to what they want.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things.
It is. I was going to say, I'm sort of filling up a bit. To be fair. And it's sometimes we talk to families a lot as well, and for all the planning that goes in, some people want to do it on their own, don't they?
They do.
And we hear a lot of stories of families who they've been there for days maybe, and sort of the people have gone, oh no, everything's going to be fine, don't worry, and they've snuck home for a shower or something like that, and literally they've got the phone call to say someone's passed away. And I always say to them, but that was obviously their choice. Some people, it's that journey they can really make on their own, and they may have said all the goodbyes, and it's difficult for them to do that, so, and they don't maybe want people to be there to see them. So I think it as many times as people maybe plan, sometimes I think they just want to be on their own.
And it's preparing relatives for that, and saying, give them permission to go, that it's all right. And you've got to know that they might not want you in the room, and it might be something that the time you step away will be the time they pass away. So it's all part of that preparation and those conversations that staff are having all the time, just to make sure that there's that awareness and there's try to prevent some of the unexpected. Also, we get some people that don't go along that normal trajectory, and something might happen that's quite acute, and they might go more quickly than we expected. So again, it's making sure we prepare. It's not an exact science.
Okay, so what signs reassure families that their loved one is comfortable and cared for?
So I think families take a lot of reassurance for somebody looking like they're sleeping. There's no signs of discomfort, scruntled faces, clenched fists.
I guess breathing heavily.
So it's just trying to see if it's possible to try and... It's not always, but sometimes towards the end you might get a bit of a rattle. That can be normal, and that's not discomfort to the patient. So again, it's about making sure we're with the relatives every step of the way. so that we're preparing them and we're advising them and supporting them in whatever might be happening.
Okay. Gosh, it's so lovely to hear the things that you go through, that you try and help families. It must be so emotionally demanding. We deal with families all the time that have maybe come from the hospice. They never have anything but great things to say. On the emotionally demanding side of things, how do you support your teams?
Yeah, a real hot topic, I have to say, and no one way fits every member of staff. And have we got it right? I think we're still learning. I think there's nothing wrong with that. We have regular clinical supervision. So there's clinical supervisors that have been trained, that's confidential, that they can go to on a one-to-one basis, or they can do it as a group. We sometimes use our in-house counsellors that might offer something. We've got some external counselling that they can also access. We look at doing debrief sessions where we might get people around and talk about that 3, 2, 1, 3 things that went really well, 2 things that we could have done better, and 1 things that we want to change. And we're constantly trying to learn and improve from what we've delivered. And we've really tried to embed some of that quality improvement within to the organisation. So we're constantly learning and trying to adapt. But we don't always get it right. And I just encourage staff to keep talking to us and telling us, we aren't quite at this right, we could do with. So we talk very much about trauma and the after effects of particularly some of those that are really complex, and for whatever reason, because the condition is that complex, we might not have been such a beautiful death, if that's the right word, as we would have expected. Well, as we could have, we've done it as best we could. Sometimes staff struggle with that, but the nature of medicine, we can't always get it 100%. So again, we work very much about trying to talk through those scenarios and trying to learn and reassure them that actually we've done everything that we could to do it as much as we possibly. The thing is, it's specialist palliative care, so we always take the more complex. So it's no 2 cases are ever going to be exactly the same, and that sometimes can be difficult.
Yeah. And what does compassion look like on the hardest days?
Kindness.
Yeah.
It's got to be kindness. It's got to be talking to everybody with respect and compassion.
And time, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
And how did the staff, all of them, cope with losing someone that maybe they've been with for a while, and then continuing to look after people who are coming in, starting at the beginning, I suppose, having faced that? It must be such a roller coaster. You've maybe said goodbye to someone in the morning, and then in the afternoon someone's coming in, and you've got to start again with all those conversations.
Real difficult part of palliative care, and something that staff face on a daily basis. I think it's them having their own coping mechanisms. That might be, I don't know what they like doing, going with family, doing exercise, but also it's about being a team and a strong team and lifting one another up. When one's down, somebody's up, and it's making sure we lift one another. We make sure we get people breaks and time out, and if we can see somebody wobbling, we wrap around them and try and think of different things that we can do, or move them out into a space, give them some time. It's something we're constantly reviewing and trying to look at, but it's trying to look at the values of the hospice as being compassionate and caring, and that has to be with one another as well as staff. And
are there moments that remind you why this work matters?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every day when I walk on the inpatient unit or into wellbeing, and you can see that we're getting it right and that quality of care is there, just reminds us that we are a hospice and why we're here.
Such a special place.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of the hospice, I mean, we've sort of touched on this, because the hospice, as much as we've talked about end of life here quite a bit, It's not about giving up though, is it?
No. Very much the opposite. It's about living well till you die. So we're constantly looking for, like we said, those goals that the patient wants to reach and trying to encourage them to reach them.
Yeah, okay. And you do have, I think I might be wrong here, but is it still classed as like the daycare side?
Yeah.
So do you want to explain a little bit about that? Because that isn't for people that are residing at the hospice, is it?
No. So we have a bedded unit, and then we have the outpatient type model.
Yeah.
So within there, we'll run things like lymphedema services where people come for care of lymphedema. We run clinics for breathlessness and fatigue, so managing some of those symptoms, as well as a day unit where patients come for the day. We do activities. It's very goal focused about what they want to achieve, but it's also a social event where they can build relationships, support mechanisms, because a lot of these people, some of these patients are living on their own. They don't see anybody unless they come to the hospice. So it is very much about supporting them, coming in for the day and having that social support as well as activities.
Yeah, and then we do see a lot on your posts on like Facebook where you're doing different activities, whether you've got somebody coming in to sing, haven't you, and they do having a sing along, or they do arts and crafts, or there's something else going on, isn't there?
Yeah,
so,
there is. Yeah, lots
which
of,
is great for those that are lonely as well, that are coming in to socialise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you also do respite, don't you?
We do. Yep. We've got 2 of our inpatient beds that we offer respite to. Again, the patients have got to meet that criteria for life-limiting illness. Unfortunately, this isn't part of the free care that's offered. It is a paid service, but it is offered, and they get the same standard of care as you would if you was on the unit. We just ask that they have a stable condition and they don't need any particular medical input. They have to be sort of stable enough to come for a respite care. But it's really important because it gives those caregivers a break. And if we can give those caregivers a break, that enables them to care for the person for longer, because it's difficult.
It
must be exhausting for people.
Yeah.
You know, as much as it's something they desperately want to do, it must take a toll. And you know, even a few days off can just give you time to breathe, really, can't it?
Recuperate, reset, and start again.
So is hospice care free?
Is it free? So to the user, yes, it's free, apart from, like we said, about the respite element. However, it costs a lot to run. We've got a lot of specialist staff, clinical staff, and wider supportive staff that run the service. So it is part funded by the NHS. So that's a third of our funding comes to the NHS. The other 2/3 comes from the fantastic community, and that is raised by our fundraising team, but also by retail. So we've got shops across the area, across North and Lincolnshire, that sell products that obviously contributes to our funding, and we wouldn't be able to deliver the service without those 2 elements of Lindsey Lodge. So they're just as important to us as the clinical.
Okay. And say when somebody comes into the hospice who is poorly, can families stay over? Is that an option you have too?
It is. We try and be very open with visiting. If they are for symptom control, we try and keep it between 2 and 8. However, if we're going towards that latter end, we try and be very amenable to the relatives, because everybody's got a life as well, haven't they? So it's trying to be minimal with that. We previously did have some family rooms that they could stop in. They were removed, but we are looking at putting one back in. However, that doesn't mean we're not saying they can't stop. They tend to stop in the room with the patient, and we will support them to do that. So we try and work with the families, really, to see what's right for them and the patient.
Okay, thank you.
So we've sort of got a couple of questions about beyond death. I mean, obviously that's kind of what people anticipate they go into Lindsey Lodge Hospice for. we know through families that you do offer bereavement support. We've dealt with families who have come to you.
Yeah.
What bereavement support can people look for at the hospice?
So if somebody dies within the hospice, what will happen is they get a follow-up telephone call for a start. So we'll send a letter out, and we also follow up with a bereavement call, supportive call, just to see how they're going. That is usually around that 6-week mark. We know that bereavement is natural, and there's a process to go to, and not everybody needs support. So we tend to check in with them down that six-week kind of mark, and give them a contact details if they need some additional support. If we feel that either we've picked up before death that there is potential for some bereavement concerns, we will make a referral to our counselling service, who will pick them up. Now, if they're known to the hospice and coming in the hospice, if we've had time, we might started some of that work before. If we're finding that they're not coping very well with bereavement, and we've sort of not progressing through those stages of bereavement, that's when we would offer some counselling to them. So it's not for everybody, because not everybody needs it, and it's a natural process. But if they do need it, we have got counsellors that we offer support. We also have a bereavement group that meets on a monthly basis that people can drop into. And some people even just like popping back to the hospice, having a conversation with the staff, going to meet and eat. And that, again, is part of their bereavement process and coming back in the hospice.
Yeah. Just touched on something there, meet and eat. Do you want to explain to the viewers what that is?
Yeah, so part of our offer is in the hospice, we've got meet and eat, which is like a cafe that the general public can come into. And again, it's to try and get rid of some of that, those myths of the hospice, encouraging people to come in. And there's a little bit of a shop there as well. It's just trying to engage with the community, to try and get rid of, like I say, some of that myth.
And kind of normalise it as well, I guess.
It does,
I'm going to Lindsey Lodge. I'm going to meet and eat at Lindsey Lodge.
Yeah.
If you say I'm going to Lindsey Lodge, people are like, but it's going in and it's seeing how light and airy and how friendly it is, and not doom and gloom. It is,
And some people take comfort in coming back.
So they coming through the doors for a different reason. They're supporting the hospice, who have obviously looked out for them in their time of need. And in a small way, they're supporting the hospice by coming back. They might buy something in the shop and things like that.
Fabulous cake.
And I was going to say, it doesn't hurt that the food's amazing. So,
definitely.
We've tried that a few times. But how long can families access support following a bereavement or a loss within Lindsey Lodge?
It is dependent on the individuals, and people have, everybody has a different journey. We try not to support for longer than a year, because people have to find different and move on. But we do try to individualise it. And that's where then the support group comes in. So they might then join a support group.
And do Lindsey Lodge sort of liaise with other groups? For example, I met a lady, her husband passed away, and she came in, her dad passed away, but she'd also found some other groups. It wasn't through Lindsey Lodge Hospice, but there was like a widowed ladies group and an over 60s group, and she said, I'm actually never in. So can you also help families access other groups?
We're trying to link in with partners just to try and see what other support's out there, because it's important that they go, use community services and things. Some of these support groups are fantastic. We also work with carers support, and so we hold a monthly carers group with carers support, and that's trying to support the carers, have a supportive network to help them continue for caring for the loved ones and a bit of a break again.
And I guess part of the progress is to sort of wean them off Lindsey Lodge as well, in a way, because it'll have such memories for them that, they'll come back, but then you need to sort of say to them, right, you need to move out now a bit into more support, meet people to move through. And I mean, we know it is grief support is such a vital part of hospice care.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is for families to not sort of say, right, well, that's it, off you go.
Yeah.
You know, we've done our bit. How does that work with the beliefs of the hospice?
I think it's, if we just say, right, your relatives died, that's it. That's a very abrupt ending. So it's trying to help them end that chapter, I suppose. So, you know, even that phone call at 6 weeks, that can stop them needing some additional counselling service. And it can pick up on issues if there's issues. So I think it's very important that we help them to close that chapter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So let's talk about the future of hospice and palliative care. Because obviously this is something that I think is, well, it is in the news a lot, isn't it? In terms of how hospices are evolving. And what do you see as the future for the hospice?
I think there is a lot out there at the minute about what the ICB should be funding, and hospice is a very hot topic, especially when we start looking at the assisted bill and all the media that's coming with that. It has significantly raised its profile, particularly because a lot of the work that the Hospice UK have been doing with the government. So I think it's looking quite bright. However, funding is difficult, and you'll hear a lot in the media about hospices having to cut services and change what they're doing, and we're no different to that. We've had to make some changes, and we're constantly reviewing the service that we're offered and making sure that they align to the funding that we're getting, which can be difficult because all we want to do is give more to the community. But we're hopeful that with that media attention, that, you know, it's looking a bit brighter.
Yeah.
But it's difficult times at the minute.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've touched on a little bit there, because I was going to say to you, what challenges do hospices face in terms of fundraising and funding?
Yeah.
So you've sort of touched on that. Is there anything else in terms of like the fundraising side or anything else like that that you want to?
Yeah, I suppose it's difficult. Fundraising are doing a fantastic job. They're raising, thanks to the community, we're getting some funding, but it's never enough. So it's the team are constantly trying to think of different ways to raise money and looking at the shops and what the shops offer. So it's just trying to continue to work with that and see how we continue to do it. Because like I say, it is difficult, but we continue.
Yeah. And what would you like the public to understand better about hospice services? Is there one thing today that you would like to say to the public for them to understand?
I suppose it's to say it's not just about dying. It's more to that. And, you know, if we're not getting something right or they want to see something different, then please come and talk to us, because it's without the community and the community being very generous with what they offer us, we wouldn't be here. So we're about the community, and I think it's about us trying to engage more with the community.
Yeah, definitely.
And keep the hospice at the forefront of people's minds. There are a lot of, there are a lot of kind of drains on people's resources that, charities, there's lots of charities, and everybody has different sort of beliefs with regard to charitable donations and things like that. We need to keep it at the forefront of people's minds, I mean, I particularly like I have a brother who's learning disabled, and his group have one of the pigs, the little, and they do pennies and 5p's. Yeah. So it's great, because obviously that's a part of the community that may need the services as well, because a lot of them have different disabilities, but it keeps that going with them, so they're all saving the 1p's and the 5p's to fill the pig up, and that's a great initiative. I think that's really good.
It's trying to keep thinking
different
of those
little
things
that are not a huge drain, that are not, we'd love £1,000, thank you very much. Let's have your pennies and your tuppennies, or your pennies and your 5p's that nobody really wants and nobody knows what to do with anymore, because there aren't banks to pay them into. So it's a great initiative, and I think that's something that people maybe don't know a lot about.
If the pennies keep coming, they soon turn into pounds.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So on closing, Helen, what would you say to somebody who is frightened about hospice care?
I say, come and see us. Yeah. Come and see us. Come in, meet and eat. It's the first place you could try. Come for a tea, coffee and a piece of cake. Talk to the team. We'll do your tour. Come and have a look round. You can feel that it's not dark and gloomy. We can put people at ease. So come and talk to us and come and have a look round.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, what about our community? How can they support you? What can they do?
Yeah, and I suppose it's like we say, every penny counts. So even if it's a little bit, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And there is also something about talking to us, telling us what you want from us, because it's really important that we engage with you and look at how we do things differently if we need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And visit the website, I think. I mean, you do so many things like Christmas trees.
Yes.
I wouldn't have thought of getting a Christmas tree. Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
my husband's too impatient to wait for tree cycling, so we pay for tree cycling and then he takes it to the tip because he won't wait for them to come.
But you're still doing
that. There are lots of things on there as well that there are different ideas.
Lots
of
of challenges.
Challenges, things like that. Yeah, we were going to do the Shark Tank one, weren't we?
We were, yeah. We'll maybe get you on a wing walk soon.
I don't know that very much.
Yeah. Okay, and what makes you proudest of your clinical team, Helen?
The pure dedication, going over and above every single day, and that quality of care that's being delivered, care and compassion. Yeah, standing by that quality care, it's amazing.
Yeah, and that absolutely shines through. I mean, we do know quite a few of them now, as obviously we work closely with you guys, and what they do, it is just fabulous. It's absolute credit to them all, definitely. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming in, Helen, and chatting to us about hospice and the hospice world, if you like, in terms of what you do and what the team back at the hospice do. I think it's been really interesting. It's quite emotional.
It is, it is.
Yeah,
it is. And to be fair, Helen speaks so well about the hospice and things like that, and it is nice to hear. I've been down once with George to collect someone from the hospice, and it really moved me at how the staff were, how everything was so private for that person. And it is quite a public building, really. There's a lot going about, people coming in for something to eat, but the way it was all handled, it was just amazing. It was really lovely. So
thank you for coming and talking to us and sharing your information.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to another end of another episode of Just Talk Funerals. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back again soon. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Just Talk Funerals.
We really care about what you think. We'd love your feedback on the subjects raised today, or maybe you have a question you would like us to talk about in a future episode. You can contact us by emailing podcast@threadgoldfunerals.com.
If you'd like to know more about what we do and the services we offer, then please head to jasonthreadgoldfuneraldirector.com. Thank you for joining us today, and see you next time.